Let's talk about the things I've done since owning this Chimaera. Bought it nearly 2 weeks ago. We're going to put a private plate on this car. Somebody left a comment on my first TVR video about something that exists behind this number plate. I mentioned this is backlit, so we're going to have a look. Stay tuned for that later in the video. When I first got this car, when I first test drove it actually, I noticed it straight away. Not enough to put me off buying the car, still wanted the car. But when you were in a straight line, the steering wheel was slightly off. It was actually off to the left slightly. The car drove true and straight on the road, and I tested this after buying it, but it was just a little off centre. I started to inquire about getting four-wheel alignments done and a full geometry, but just on the off chance, I thought I'd pop the steering wheel off and move it over one notch on the spline that it's attached to. So that's what I did, and it made a huge difference straight away. Took it out on a straight dual carriageway road, steering wheel nice and straight, car was running nice and straight. So something's gone on there in its 30-year history, and clearly and obviously I probably do need to get a proper full geometry done at some point. But for now, it's a lot better, and it was a quick, relatively easy fix. 22mm bolt. The tricky bit was getting the steering wheel off the spline. I had to order a puller kit, which I had to take the Allen key bolts out, attach it to that to pull the steering wheel off, but that's a proper, safer way of doing it rather than banging it with a rubber hammer or doing anything more savage, because you don't want to damage the steering wheel, the steering column, or anything like that. So that's quite an elegant approach. Moved it over a notch, tightened it up, and that was job done. One of the modifications I have done is replace the gas boot strut for the boot with a slightly longer one. This is about 54 centimeters. You can get them from a company called SGS Engineering. I pretty much did that straight away. Why did I do that? Well, you get easier access to the fuel nozzle here, basically. Is that a huge issue? Probably not, but one of the cars I'd looked at had this modification done, and that kind of sticks with you a bit, so it stuck with me, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get that done. And yeah, as soon as I got this car, one of the first things I did was fill it up, and I noticed it was pretty awkward getting the nozzle in there and getting it to the point where you needed to top it right to the top, and putting this slightly longer boot strut on was the easy solution for that. It doesn't affect anything in terms of operation of the boot. It doesn't mean that the boot automatically pops open or anything like that. It just opens and closes as it did do before, but it just opens a little bit more. In a future world, old Pioneer single DIN CD head units are probably worth a small fortune, and people watching this video going, that's horrendous, he ripped it out. And yes, I did. That was another modification that I have made. This was a head unit. It had FM radio and a CD player. That was about your lot. Don't own any more CDs, and I don't really listen to FM radio. So upgraded it to a Pioneer SPH20 DAB. It comes with an inbuilt phone holder, so you can actually put your phone in on there, and there is an app which syncs to the stereo, and it means you can control the stereo with the screen of your phone. It's quite a neat solution, and I'd seen it done in a few other TVRs. As I was doing that, this old stereo, so this was a bit of a monumental fix, I suppose. This old stereo wasn't wired in to the ignition live. What that meant was you had to manually turn it on and off, which I thought was a bit risky really, so you had to remember to turn it off, otherwise it would drain the battery. I can only assume the person who fitted this did this deliberately so that, I don't know, maybe they just didn't want it draining the battery using the switch live. Anyway, I did a bit of research. There's a green wire behind the dashboard. Lo and behold, that was absolutely fine. I switched live. So I installed the new stereo, which obviously didn't have a permanent off button, so I needed to find the switch live anyway. So when I turned the ignition off, the stereo went off, and that's what I did. Happy days. I also installed a DAB aerial on the passenger side. Oh, and a little microphone for the stereo as well. Bear in mind that DAB aerials do need to be earthed. They have a copper strip, and obviously being a TVR, being made of fiberglass, plastic and glass, finding that earthing metal contact on the windscreen is not really possible. Did a quick bit of research, and it is entirely possible. You can put a DAB radio aerial on there, not worry too much about the earth, and get fairly decent reception, and you can. Haven't played with it too much. For the most part, I've just been connecting my phone and playing the music off the phone, but so far so good. I've got DAB radio, I've got Bluetooth, I've got full phone connectivity, with my navigation, etc. The holder's built into the stereo, which is good, and that charges my phone from the USB port, so I don't have to wire in from the cigarette lighter socket, which is in the door, which would be a pain. This next fix, modification, change is quite a good one actually, and quite important. There is an extension lead for a CTEK charger cable here now, which if needs be can be fed through underneath and out the convertible roof window here, like so. This is nice, an elegant solution for keeping the battery plugged into a CTEK charger when the car is parked in the garage behind me. And why do you need to keep your TVR always charged on a CTEK charger? Because everything is electric. The doors are electric. There's no external, it's beautiful, but there's no external physical keyhole to put a key in to manually open the doors here. It's all reliant on electric. So really important to keep your battery healthy, keep it charged, which is why pretty much straight away we got an extension CTEK cable, wired it into the battery, which is in the footwell of the passenger seat, just behind there, bolted on the little extension cable, ran it through along the sill, up through the carpet in the back, and we now have it in the back. It's not the most elegant solution, but it's okay and it does the job. Final thing I've done so far is buy one of these, which is a draft excluder dog. Why have I bought a draft excluder dog? Because if you do fold down this bit of the convertible roof, you can snugly fit your draft excluder dog in the plastic window. It will stop the plastic window sort of folding in on itself if it's cold and pretty hard, and it will prevent it from going brittle and hopefully cracking. I'd seen it somewhere else on another person's picture of a TVR and thought that is a very sensible idea and makes sense. The roof on this is pretty good condition. I'm guessing it was replaced reasonably recently. There's no rips, tears or anything in it, and the plastic is mint. So yes, a good little addition if you do have a TVR and you want to protect the plastic rear screen. Get yourself a draft excluder dog. So is it all roses and cupcakes with the TVR so far? What has gone wrong and what needs doing? Well, so far, touch wood, nothing has gone wrong. The car has been performing pretty good since I've had it. These old Rover V8 engines are a little bit prone to oil leaks from all sorts of different areas. I read a lot about that, and it's very rare to actually find one that doesn't drip or weep a little bit of oil somewhere along the way. I got resigned to that pretty quickly and pretty early on. This does leak a tiny bit. I looked at recent paperwork from the last service. There was a lot of things that were done to try and correct all of the oil leaks, but there is still a little bit of an oil leak. So potentially at some point it is due a service, not based on miles because it's hardly done any since the last service, but the last service was now a little bit over a year ago. My plan is to drive this car through the summer a little bit more, not put a huge amount of miles on it, just enjoy the sunny weather, and then come the autumn time get it into a TVR specialist, probably TVR 101, get them to give it a bit of a going over, make sure everything's okay, ready for winter. I'm not sure if I'll sawn it over winter or whether I'll continue to use it. Hopefully I can continue to use it, but a service is definitely on the cards. Wing mirrors are an interesting point. I love these wing mirrors because I am slightly weirdly emotionally attached to them, because my late father used to own a 1989 Lotus XL which had the exact same Citroen wing mirrors, and so they've always sort of stuck with me, and I've always sort of kept an eye on which cars used them, because quite a lot of cars did use them. The way TVR fitted them is a little bit odd, and they've included obviously the electronic door buttons underneath them. But I've seen a few videos about wobbly mirrors. Now mine are a tiny bit wobbly, but on this driver's side mirror when you're driving along, it's not so much the mirror housing itself that's wobbling, it's actually the mirror glass that is a bit, I can do it now, very fragile. It doesn't feel very well stuck down. So I think we need to sort that out pretty soon. The wooden dash, I really like the wooden dash. I think it suits the green of the car. I think it suits the cream leather of the car. Many people upgrade and change their wooden dashes to carbon effect and silver effect, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I actually think the wooden dash In this car, with the colour scheme that it is, the cream over the green with the wood, I think it suits it. Which is me saying that, which is odd. It just feels very traditional, which is sort of not normally me, but I like it. It is cracked in a lot of places. So at some point, the dash, which is really solidly screwed in. Again, I've watched a few videos on how to pop these out. There's a few, I believe, 2 or 3 10mm bolts at various positions to pop the top of the dash out. Remove the instruments and then replace the wooden dash panel. I think at some point that will probably get done, but I'm in really no hurry to do it. I actually also quite like the fact that this car is not concours and it's not 100% mint showroom condition, because I'm going to use it. It's designed to be used, and it's a bit easier to kind of just get in a car and jump in it and not worry about it so much if it's not 110% pristine. You're not too precious about it. It is a 30-year-old car at the end of the day, so it's the fact that it's got a bit of patina on the dashboard with a few cracks, I'm kind of okay with. One of my pet hates with registration plates, I'm not sure if that's entirely going to work, but we'll give it a go, is drilling holes in them, basically. Well, 2 things. One is drilling holes in them. You pay a lot of money for number plates. I hate drilling holes in them, and then you swap them between cars and the holes never line up. So drilling holes, number 1, and then also the sticky stuff that goes on the back here, because they're A, pretty rubbish, and B, just make a right mess. Again, when you're swapping them between cars, it becomes a real pain. So I like to use number plate holders. I normally get branded ones. The Alpha has ones with Alpha written on the bottom. There were no TVR ones, so I've got plain black ones, and we'll see how this goes. It was not worth the anticlimax. There seems to be nothing here. I did have a suspicion what I thought might be behind here, and my suspicion was incorrect. So there you can see the indentation. There's the illumination for the rear number plate that shines through the back. I don't know what I was expecting. Anyway, it was changed. That's what I was going to mention. It was changed on later models of the Chimaera. Don't have this kind of smooth line, and it is a smooth line. The number plate is recessed more on the later models, and the lights are a bit more obvious. I don't know quite why they changed it, but there you go. That's the inside of the backlit number plate on a TVR. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again very soon. Cheers.